It's like a shark, NATO, except with poop.
I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
There's insanity in the control room. Who's got a hammer?
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Monday, around the nation. Waldorf Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you today on this Monday afternoon. Hopefully everybody had an excellent weekend. We got an excellent show to start off this week. Of course, we're going to be diving into the disaster that is the Middle East right now. Man, some things never change. We're going to talk about that. We've got Chachi, Scott Baio, getting publicly owned. We've got OAN wants to give, get this, socialism, but for guns. Fascinating. And then, of course, we have executives in the pharmaceutical industry making fun of people who are in pain. So, yeah, that's a fun day. So lots of these stories. Let's get into it in a minute here. But first, I got to ask you all, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so, that you help us out. Super chats, all that and stuff, always welcome. Of course, I read those when I come back from the break. So all of that. That's it. You know what? Why don't we just not waste any time? Except for one announcement. Right now, streamer Vosh is running a charity stream. And the charity that he's raising money for, and it's already raised somewhere around over $30,000 to $40,000 for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. And so what I'm gonna do following my stream is I'm gonna raid into him on Twitch, direct some of you, all of you, if you want to go over to his stream and donate to that worthy cause. And I'm also going to be joining for a little bit on there to have a conversation as well. So great stuff that he's doing. Excellent use of his platform. I love to see it. You love to see community help. All the money, of course, the proceeds are going to go to the the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. It's an up and up nonprofit. Let me just give you the ratings on this. Okay. They have a rating of 91.6 out of 100 for a charity. And for accountability and transparency, 100. Perfect. That's pretty good. So, very worthy cause. Help out some Palestinian kids. They need it. And so, go there and donate to that as well. So, anyway, let's do it. Let's jump into the first story. Do you remember when former President Donald Trump and his slumlord son Jared Kushner declared that they have They did it. They got peace in the Middle East, everybody. It's over. The decades of violence between the state of Israel and the Palestinian people over, folks. They did a peace, right? We ended the apartheids and the terrorisms, and they're giving themselves a great big pat on the back. Oh, wait. Turns out that did not happen. But nonetheless, during the time, former President Donald Trump did give himself a pat in the back, and even thought that his efforts, of which he did basically nothing, would end up giving him a Nobel Peace Prize, which actually, by the way, doesn't mean anything, but he wants one anyway. And boy, I wonder if you can guess why. He said this back in 2019. I'm going to get a Nobel Peace Prize for a lot of things if they gave it out fairly, which they don't. Nobel Peace. Can you imagine? Trump then said in 2020. Well, hold on there. Okay, hold your applause for Donald Trump. Okay, this is not a...
Please clap.
Okay, it's not one of those moments. Okay, turns out that didn't actually happen, and you still have massive problems in the Middle East. You would see that right now, the state of Israel has launched a ground invasion into Gaza, as well as massive airstrikes that destroyed a building that housed two major press agencies that ended up killing children as well. And so you had the Associated Press, who had their building bombed, and Al Jazeera. But I know the Israel Defense Forces are saying, oh, no, but you don't understand. You also had a Hamas. Hamas was there. They had a headquarters there. Wait, so you think that the Associated Press and Al Jazeera shared a building with a headquarters of Hamas? That doesn't make any sense. But they blew the crap out of the building. So now it's gone. That said, this is in retaliation to small rocket attacks from Hamas, which was in response to Israel illegally removing Palestinians from a small community, Sheikh Jarrah, to make way for Israeli settlers. Look, I don't know how you would feel if you were getting evicted, whether because of your religion or whatever. Somebody just shows up to your house and says, you're gone, get out. We're going to put these settlers in your place. I don't know how you'd feel, but I'd be pretty pissed. Okay, I wouldn't be happy. So during that entire thing, there were demonstrations that flared up even further after Israeli police stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where there were demonstrations. More than 330 Palestinians had been injured, while 21 police officers were injured on the other side. So as far as Middle East peace, it's not looking too peaceful over there, okay? And from my standpoint, it's the fault of the Israeli government for the escalation. So now, then why are they talking about peace? Then, oh, we did it. Well, it turns out that slumlord Kushner had launched something called the Abraham Accords, Institute for Peace, to, quote, promote his major accomplishment when he advised his father-in-law, former U.S. President Donald Trump. Quote, the normalization agreements between Israel and a number of Sunni Arab countries, said the Times of Israel earlier this month. So this was an agreement between Israel and a bunch of other countries. But what about Israel? Or I'm sorry, what about the Israelis and the Palestinians? Were the Palestinians involved in this at all? No, there wasn't, actually. Now, Axios said, quote, the Abraham Accords, signed in September of 2020, were arguably Trump's biggest foreign policy achievement and the biggest breakthrough for relations between Israel and the Arab world for 25 years. Not to minimize it, right? But hey, look, you got to have peace with your neighbors. You got to get along with everybody, right? Now, the big problem is not with the neighbors, but with Israel doing illegal settlements in Palestine, taking Palestinian territory and then doing what, amounts to apartheid, and in some, with charges of ethnic cleansing. by removing people from quote unquote key areas of the city. And so, yeah. Now, none of that, again, that agreement that Donald Trump and Jared Kushner pushed didn't deal at all with the issues facing Palestinians and why they are rightly upset. They don't have clean drinking water. They've got spotty electricity, massive unemployment, and are living in an open air prison. So in those situations, you have groups like Hamas that will promise to solve the problems. Of course, they don't, and they just fire rockets at people. Well, that's unbelievably dumb. But, again, unbelievably dumb. Because what you have then, as a result of that, is asymmetrical warfare, or an excuse to use asymmetrical warfare by Israel. And of course, you end up having the Israeli army, the Air Force, the United States, all of their backed allies, basically grinding the Palestinian people further into the dust. So this is not good. And by the way, the United States and Israel also deny peaceful options for the Palestinian people to be able to take their case to the UN. And so you have the United States under both Biden and then Trump that allowed Israel to continue doing illegal settlements, inflaming tensions, and then, of course, just recently blocked 2 resolutions, this is under Biden, that would have actually condemned Israel's military response and to call for a ceasefire. So yeah, not only did Trump not solve the problem, but also Biden not solving the problem either. Biden is pretty much completely silent on this issue. And so that's what we have. And unfortunately, when it comes to, no matter which party seems to be in power, you have, unfortunately, the American imperialisms going on and supporting the apartheid regime of the right-wing government of Israel. It's really sad. All right. So, now, that said, social media decided to go after both Kushner and Trump for declaring victory prematurely. As we can see, there is no victory here. One person says, reminded that Jared Kushner and Ivanka made $640 million during their time in the White House. It was never about peace in the Middle East. In fact, the dealings that Kushner had with the Middle East involved Qatar and being able to try to sell his building that wasn't making any money. Or, I'm sorry, not sell, but to get loans to finance a building in New York, which was losing tons of money. So, not only that, another one here. Ivanka Trump gained 41 trademarks in China, including coffins plus voting machines. Jared Kushner used the White House to find debt loaners for himself, and both made $640 million while working in Daddy Trump's administration. It was never about peace in the Middle East. So again, there's a pattern here. Kushner brought peace to the Middle East, just like Donald Trump made America great again. Another person adds, I hope by now conservatives realize the peace plan created by Kushner was faux, not a peace plan if it only involved countries that Israel had already had good relations with and excluded the Palestinians. And that's another thing as well. And then finally, another person says, peace, the only thing Jared Kushner ever brokered in the Middle East was the torture and murder of Jamal Khashoggi, or Khashoggi. Never forget. Now, look, it's actually kind of interesting and nice to see that there's more social media accounts that are at least backing the Israeli, I'm sorry, not the Israeli, but the Palestinian accounts against the Israelis. And by the way, that doesn't mean backing Hamas. And it's also not anti-Semitic to be against the actions of the right-wing Israeli government, who is breaking international laws and instituting an apartheid regime. Any real peace agreement has to involve the Palestinian people. Obviously, they're the focus. Their interests, though, unfortunately, are almost never represented when it comes to peace talks. They're the ones being impacted the most. This is not, by the way, it's not an even thing. Okay, this is not an equal playing field. You have the the U.S. constantly blocking UN resolutions that might actually try to ensure the peace on both sides, so that no people have to die, which should be the point. What I want to see is both groups be able to be secure, safe, and to be able to coexist in peace. And unfortunately, we don't have that. Not thanks to Trump, and not thanks to Biden. All right. We're going to continue with this. Following the attack on Gaza by Israeli forces as a result of the continued oppression of the Palestinian people, members of progressives, the Progressive Caucus, members of the Squad, Bernie Sanders, and others are speaking out not only about the lack of a ceasefire agreement, but also going after the funding that the U.S. taxpayer is giving to the Israeli military. Now, recently, Senator Bernie Sanders had tweeted this, that lawmakers, quote, must take a hard look at the nearly $4 billion in military aid the U.S. sends to Israel on an annual basis. Now, that money, of course, has been used to forcefully expel Palestinians from their homes. Now, the devastation in Gaza, as Sanders said, is unconscionable. We must urge an immediate ceasefire. The killing of Palestinians and Israelis must end. We must also take a hard look at nearly $4 billion a year in military aid to Israel. It is illegal for the U.S. aid to support human rights violations. Now, that part, that's really, really important. Okay. It turns out we're not actually supposed to be funding countries that do human rights abuses. I know, right? And yet, somehow we do. Weird. Now, under legal provisions known as the Leahy laws, the U.S. government is actually barred from providing military assistance to, quote, any unit of a country's security forces that commits a gross violation of human rights. Can you think of anybody that's doing some gross violations of human rights right now? I mean, already, Palestinian children have been killed by missile attacks. And, of course, yes, Israeli children have also died as a result of rockets by Hamas. But when you look at the numbers, when you stack them up, when you compare them, it's not even close. Hamas rockets, or I should say rockets fired by Hamas, are incredibly inaccurate. Most of them do also get shot down by the U.S.-funded Iron Dome. And look, I'm glad they get shot down. I don't want innocent people on either side to be killed, which is why it's important to note that while Israel has a missile defense system, Palestine does not. The Palestinians have nothing. When the Israeli army attacks and bombs and shoots missiles, they all hit their mark. All of them. Devastatingly so. Which explains why there are so many casualties on the Palestinian side. The technology and equipment levels are not the same. So maybe, what I'm trying to say is maybe we shouldn't be funding. Okay? I think they got it. I think they can handle themselves. Okay? And especially when we know that this whole thing started when Israeli police were throwing Palestinians out of their homes in order to make way for settlers. These are illegal settlements. So now, again, we're not supposed to fund human rights abuses. But unfortunately, this is America. These mandates have been applied very selectively in practice. So that's why nobody ever heard of the Leahy laws, because nobody ever uses them. So now the other question is, why are we even sending them money in the first place? They seem to have more than enough. Why do they need us? Well, you can thank former President Barack Obama for that. Thanks to a 10-year deal signed during the Obama administration in 2016, Israel receives roughly $3.8 billion a year in military assistance from the United States. In a budget blueprint released last month, Joe Biden indicated that he intends to adhere to the terms of the 2016 deal, which sends Israel $3.3 billion in military aid and $500 million for missile defense systems each year. So why is that? Well, for one, lobbying. AIPAC is an incredibly strong lobby. And by the way, if you oppose politicians or if you oppose AIPAC in their lobbying efforts, you're called anti-Semitic. I mean, as simple as that. A lot of people are incredibly afraid of that charge. And there is, and look, it gets thrown around a lot, especially if you critique the government of Israel. In some circles, that is considered enough to be considered to be a neo-Nazi or an anti-Semite. Okay, and so yeah, that stigma plus the influence of that money in politics, which by the way, all countries do. All countries lobby. All politicians, corporations lobby. There's nothing unique or different about what AIPAC does. It's that it just tends to spend a lot of money because they have a lot, as well as being shielded from criticism as a result of being able to call, critics anti-Semitic. So yeah, but not only that, but here's the other thing. What do you think Israel spends the money on? Well, weapons, because it's there for military aid. Weapons that they buy from the United States. So think about this, right? The American taxpayer is handing over money to Israel to the tune of $3.8 billion a year so that Israel can then turn around and buy American weapons, which then they use against the Palestinian people. So for them, everybody wins, except for the dead kids on both sides. But defense contractors, they win. The lobbyists, they win. Politicians in the U.S. and in Israel, by the way, right-wingers in both countries, have it a win. It's so incredibly gross. And I don't want to fund that. I want money. I want my taxpayer money to go to peace. A peace where Palestinians and Israelis are equal and have their own autonomy and can live their own lives and can coexist in peace. That's what I want. You're going to call me naive, but that is what I want. Now, that said, more politicians did speak out, including Representative Rashida Tlaib, who said this: American taxpayer money is being used to commit human rights violations. Congress must condition the aid that we send to Israel and end it altogether if those conditions are not followed. Now think about how rational that is. What we're just asking is, hey, the money that we give you, we don't want you to use it to bomb kids. That's it. You can have it if you stop bombing children. Please stop bombing children in Palestine. If you can prove to us that you're not bombing kids, then you can have the money. And still, politicians, and I'm going to show you how dire this is, how much even that is too much apparently to ask. But again, in our system, it's insane. Okay. Now, in a joint statement that same day, Representative Ilhan Omar, Andre Carson, and Tlaib also said that we continue to provide the Israeli government with over $3 billion in military aid every year with no conditions or accountability for wanton human rights abuses and continuing illegal seizures of Palestinian land. Last month, before Israel's latest bombardment of Gaza began, Representative Betty McCollum also introduced legislation that would prohibit Israel from using U.S. military aid in the occupied territories for military detention, abuse, or ill treatment of Palestinian children in Israeli military detention, seizing or destroying Palestinian property and homes, or supporting the annexation of Palestinian territory. So now this is an incredibly strong bill. 100% support this. Betty McCollum has been an excellent voice in defending Palestinians. In this bill, again, it's an absolute no-brainer. So you would expect that most of the Democratic Party, Republicans, forget about Republicans. Republicans are monstrous. They love what's going on in Israel right now, in Gaza. They hate Muslims. Well, they also hate Jews, but they said that, but they basically need Jews for their end time. And so they support all this, and they love violence, and they love selling weapons to other countries. Doesn't matter. They'd sell them to the Iranians if they could. Oh, right. In fact, a Republican president did. Funny that. Whoops. But all right. So McCollum's bill, how many co-sponsors does it have in the House? 19. I'm going to give you their names. Bobby Rush, his co-sponsor. Danny K. Davis, Andre Carson, Marie Newman, Ilhan Omar, Mark Pocan, Raul Grijalva, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Presley, Corey Bush, Jamal Bowman, Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, and Jesus Chuy Garcia. That's it. I mean, there you go. 19 people. Where are the rest of the Democrats? Where's Nancy Pelosi? Member of the House. Is she okay with bombing kids? You know the answer to that. Imagine if the situation were reversed, by the way, and it was Israelis that were having their homes taken. You know what would happen? Well, it wouldn't happen. Not unless, of course, Israel was a socialist nation. Then we'd be absolutely okay with it in the United States. I'm serious. But, like, if, you know, the situation were reversed, as I said, politicians in this country, their hair would be on fire. But we can't even get a bill passed that says, stop using our money to bomb brown kids. Kids. And yet, again, only 19 people in a House of 435 congresspeople, representatives, agree. This does not include the Senate, by the way. The rest, though, are like, fuck them kids. I'm sure they did something to deserve it. One of the videos that came out over the weekend broke my heart. The 10-year-old Palestinian girl talking about how, what do we do? We're just kids. What am I supposed to do? I'm 10. And yet this is happening. I cry every day. It's monstrous what's going on over there. It's horrifying. Look, and again, I knew that the Biden administration is going to be pretty terrible on this issue, on foreign policy. I also knew that even if he tried to be less terrible on this issue, it would still be terrible because generally that's how American politics is. We have been incredibly bad on foreign policy, on things, especially the Israeli and Palestinian peace. Just absolutely awful. But this bill, the least we could do, the least Biden could do, is come out and say, well, now I 100% disagree with what's going on. But no, he says, obviously I back Israel. That's what he came out and said. It's too much for them to do the bare minimum of not wanting to bomb children. Not only that, but the U.S. has also blocked UN resolutions denouncing the strikes, by the way, which those same strikes hit a media building housing both the Associated Press and Al Jazeera. Those strikes, not only that, have killed hundreds of people, including a lot of children. McCollum had also told The Intercept last week, quote, now's the time to send a clear message to the Israeli government. Not $1 more of U.S. military aid can be used to demolish Palestinian homes and its Palestinian lands, or torture or kill Palestinian children. Members need to decide if they want to talk peace and perpetuate conflict, or if they want to really work towards reducing violence and conflict while actually taking a stand to advance human rights. Well, unfortunately, so far, they have refused to take a stand. Again, Biden, fairly silent. And that silence is deafening. Absolutely deafening. Except for, of course, these few progressives. And there is one bright spot in this incredibly dark situation. Years ago, nobody would have spoke out in favor of Palestinians. Nobody. I mean, in this Congress, at least in this Congress, may not be much. Only 19 people in the House. But we're making a little bit of headway. And progressives, of course, are leading the way. But it is too little right now and too late. And we've got a long, long way to go to stand up for what essentially is human rights. And as usual, progressives lead the way. Okay. Let's go from just depression to dunking on Chachi. If you got a talent, use it. All right. Washed-up actor Scott Baio claims to be against socialism, but can't stop himself from getting publicly owned. On Monday, the far-right actor, whom I haven't seen anything for, 20, 30 years, went after Costco for keeping its mask mandate in stores temporarily. That mandate, of course, has since been removed. Nonetheless, this really does illustrate how the right has no idea what they're talking about. So now the CDC had released a statement last week where it said it was lifting the mask mandate for those who had been vaccinated. So now I was originally pretty excited about that. But then once that wore off, it makes you think like, wait, how would you ever know if the person who isn't wearing a mask is actually vaccinated or not? Having America, who did pretty bad during the pandemic, switch over to an honor system is a recipe for a disaster. Okay? How could anybody know the person next to you is vaccinated? What are you going to ask for their vaccination card? There are people that are selling fake ones out there. And then there are some that have oh no, I've been vaccinated by the Lord, Jesus' blood. And of course, they could also just lie. Now, who would lie about that? Being vaccinated? The conservatives. Of course they'd lie. 41% of conservatives refuse to get vaccinated. You know who would be the most willing to lie about it? Conservatives. That's what they do. Why? Because they want to own the libs. Ridiculous. So now, of course, all of this also stems from Ricky Schrader. I don't know who that is. Another child actor, whatever, trying to get into Costco without a mask. So now, as a result of these, considerations, Costco, for the moment, had decided to keep their mask mandate, which got Scott Baio, sent him into a rage. In fact, here's what Scott Baio said. Quote, "The Costco manager employee said, it's a law to wear a mask. It is not a law. It is a mandate from the dictators." A mandate from the dictators. Wow. Actually, you know what? You might actually be kind of right about this. Ironically. All workplaces, save for worker cooperatives, are by definition undemocratic. So I guess you could call the CEO a dictator. It's a dictatorship in the workplace. You got the CEO, you get the shareholders, you get sometimes a board of directors, which are handbooked by the shareholders or investors. The workers have actually no say in company decisions. That's why, again, it never really makes any sense to go and harass the person that's, the greeter at the door or your cashier, as if they make the rules. They don't. And, by the way, they don't get paid enough to deal with your shit. So what are you doing? Now, Scott Baio, ironically, is Scott Baio advocating for a democratic workplace? Perhaps a socialist workplace? Where the majority will make the decision and not the dictators at the top, since you say you don't like dictators. Well, then why would you support a dictatorship in the workplace? Huh? Did he accidentally go left wing? If he did, you'd love to see it. So now, comedian Christopher Titus replied to him and basically, said, hey, it's a private corporation, guys. They set their own rules. In fact, here's a quote. "It's a private business, Chachi. No shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. Why such a snowflake? You cons really believe in rights. So long as you can do whatever the fuck you want. Society has rules. Follow them or fuck off." Baio responded by saying, "Hey, dumbbell, it's a private company. Or, I'm sorry, it's a public company." So now that's funny, because does he think that public companies are actually public, as in owned by the public, owned by the government, or by the workers? that we're doing a socialism now? I mean, it'd be great. I wish. It'd be wonderful. But no, all public companies mean is that they're publicly traded in the stock market. That's it. So honestly, he has no idea what he's talking about. None. They really understand that when I call conservatives dumb, this is what I mean. They really are that stupid. This is low IQ, smooth brain, complete ignorance. And what's funny is that the same people are used to say, oh, we're behind the companies that don't want to bake gay cakes for wedding. And they would cheer at that. Like, yeah, freedom. Companies can make whatever rules they want. Yeah, corporations, yeah. They're better. They're people, my friend. They're better than people. You should do whatever they say. But now when they're like, oh, you should probably wear a mask in our store because, I want to make sure that my customers, and mainly my customers, are protected, or mainly that I don't get fined by the state, because the state generally, has mask mandates and things like that. So we got to follow the rules, or else we're going to get a fine. Well, when that happens, people like Chachi blow up. They explode. Total lunacy. Total lunacy. So I love some of these responses to this, by the way. Why they not dictators when they require you to wear a shirt and shoes? Please explain. Why are they not dictators when they require you to wash your hands before serving food at restaurants or stop at red lights? Are those the requirements of a dictatorship too? Please explain, Chachi. Let's be honest. The conservatives would also be against those two things too. Conservatives are against wearing seatbelts. I know. I've talked to them before about that. You should be able to. You should be allowed to not wear a seatbelt. It's my God-given right to smash through my windshield at 50 miles an hour. God damn it. But America! I thought this was America, folks. How's it America when I can't smash through my goddamn windshield at 60 miles an hour? Or that I can't spread a communicable disease to other people in the store while I'm looking for tomatoes. Whew. It's ridiculous. My God. And also, by the way, they would be against people washing their hands. Honor system. Well, we believe you. No. Something, free market, something, America, socialism. It's communism making people wash their hands. Ridiculous. I wonder, since all these are opening up, by the way, earlier today, Costco dropped a mask requirement. Walmart, Trader Joe's, Meijer, a lot of these companies have lifted their mask requirements. Now, of course, in states that still have mask requirements, obviously, you still have to wear your mask in the store. But I'm wondering in the places where they don't have the state requirements, and now the stores have lifted their own requirements, if we're not going to see outbreaks in the stores. I would be shocked if that didn't happen, because we are still in the pandemic. Yes, more and more people are getting vaccinated. That's fantastic. But you still have a lot of people, mainly conservatives, who have not gotten their vaccine. And you've got dangerous anti-vax conspiracies. Again, 41% of Republicans say, no, I'm not going to get a vaccine. No, not at all. Now, is that enough? I mean, do we still have enough people who are going to get vaccinated or have gotten vaccinated to hit at least 70%, which by some is considered to be herd immunity, although obviously the more people you have vaccinated, the better, and the safer it is. I don't know. And that's a scary thing. So, for a lot of us, even if it's not a requirement, you still might not want to ditch the mask yet. All right. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got a story. We got right-wingers wanting socialism, but for guns. Socialized Socialized guns. All obviously I'm using the ridiculous right-wing version of social. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Stay right here. We'll be back. Around the Nation.
There's insanity in the control room.
Who's got a hammer? Tighten up my knee. I like my knee tight.
Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation. Waldorf Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you today. All right, so, well, today and every day. All right, anyway. So a couple of super chats here. Gabby Mathis, thank you. Appreciate that. I got this shirt quite a while ago. I like it. I know. Don't put on politicians to save you. I know I agree with that sentiment. I just like it because he's got a lightsaber. And also, Bernie Sanders is still, he's incredibly based. And so, really, we should be backing him because he can't save us, but we can back him. You know what I'm saying? Because the guy can't do these things alone, the good things. He needs the rest of us. If you didn't know that, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of, political revolution, backing people. Is Bernie too soft? Everybody's too soft on Israel, Scott. Everybody. American empire. But we can push. The younger generation is way more progressive on Israel. And people like Bernie Sanders will have to adjust to keep up with the rest of us. And that's kind of how it's supposed to go. You know, we're supposed to push those people who are, we're supposed to push those people. And in a lot of cases, like I said, it's starting to work. It is starting to work. Okay. Breaking news, Supreme Court to hear case on Roe v. Wade. We'll see what happens. Gabby, I got that shirt outside of a Bernie rally. Oh God, it was in Detroit. It's actually covering a Bernie rally and I actually met up with Emma Vigeland while she was out there shooting and doing a segment covering that Bernie rally too. Super, super nice person to talk to. Very, very nice. Very nice woman. Very professional as well. So, let's see. Let's play Valheim sometime. If I ever get time. Bernie condemned the Israeli attacks on Palestine. Yeah, I just covered that. But overall, I don't know what you expect from all of our politicians. So, I mean, it really depends on your point of view. For me, you already know what I want. Okay. Anyway, let's go to the socialisms on guns. And possibly a strange case of accidental left wing. An OAN activist wants to do a socialism on guns. Weird. Now, this is conservative activist Rogan O'Handley, which is already a fun name. And what he's going to do is he's going to start out the segment. First, you've got the host here. He's going to talk about how the left wants to grab your guns. And then he's going to kind of make the opposite point. Take a look.
They constantly are coming up with new ideas, new law suggestions, and ultimately they would like for us to be unarmed. They would like to take away our guns, and they'll do anything they can to get to that goal.
America owns more guns than 50% of the planet. There are more guns than people in this country. God bless the Second Amendment and our founding fathers. I am absolutely loving seeing these huge gun numbers.
Okay. Now, this is funny because the conservative argument is if we have more guns, that's going to make us safe. Oh, he just pointed out that we're swimming in guns. We're a country of 330 million people, and we have half the world's guns. We are packed. We are armed to the teeth. By his logic, we should be the safest country in the world. I mean, we should have no crime, no mass shootings, no rapes, no violent crime, nothing like that, no lootings. And yet, here we are. I think we lead the world in mass shootings. And so those numbers, they don't really help you, especially when you're trying to make the argument, the left is coming for your guns. They're going to take your guns. They hate the Second Amendment. They're going to come for your guns. Obama came for your guns too. Really? Did he? Did he come for your guns? The same segment, by the way, is just like Obama was really good for the gun industry because every time he opened his mouth, the guns would fly off the shelves. Well, that would seem to indicate that your Second Amendment seems to be safe because you're still buying guns and everybody's got guns. Everybody's got guns. But here's where it gets strange. Here's where it gets into the socialisms. Take a look.
You know, the typical people that already own a gun or two or more, down in Florida, we call that a good start. But we're getting a lot of new first-time buyers, people that have never owned a gun in their life who are looking around and seeing BLM and Antifa burning down, courthouses, police stations, watching police let them just run ramshot on these communities, looting, violence, murder. And they're saying, you know what? These guys are also calling to defund the police. Maybe I have to look at protecting myself and my family. Maybe I should start exercising my constitutional rights to keep and bear arms. And I will say I'm in the camp where I think we should actually have subsidies for gun ownership in this country. We subsidize school, housing, everything. Why are we not subsidizing guns? That's a constitutional right and one of the most important. Very happy to see these huge numbers.
Why are we not subsidizing guns? There is something really kind of fucked up about a political movement that does not want to guarantee health care to every single American citizen, but wants to guarantee guns for every American citizen. It's almost like a bad episode of Pawn Stars, right? You want health care? Best I can do is free guns, guys. Sorry. It's such a ridiculous idea on its face, especially from people who hate the government. Like, I hate the government. I want to stockpile arms against the government. But guess what? The government wants to give you free guns. Yes, I love the government. Jesus. And look, here's the thing. I'm not even against gun ownership. Yes, you are statistically more likely to shoot yourself or a family member if you have a gun in your house. This is true. We have evidence of this. But at the same time, we do have a Second Amendment right to own those guns, to have those guns in our home. And so that's the risk that you take. If you're going to have guns in your house, you're more likely to die by them. And you should probably know that. The other ridiculous thing here, though, is the reason, right? And so, again, he's like, before he went to subsidizing guns, he's talking about scary Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Well, that's racist as hell. What's going on here is white nationalists are causing a lot of the violence, again, the number one source of domestic terrorism in the country, it's coming from right-wing anti-government groups, members of the far right, the Proud Boys, and you have the sovereign citizens movements, things like that. Neo-Nazis, white supremacists, police brutality, and yes, while there have been riots, those have been pretty small scale. Let's be honest. There's like a burning down a store, or like an Arby's or something, smashing some windows out. Not good. I don't agree with that. But look at it in the context. Burn a store, smash a window, as a result of police murdering an unarmed person, black person. Imagine being more concerned about the store itself versus a life that has just been unjustly taken, brutally taken. It's kind of fucked. People apparently are more important or less important than property to them. For me, I think that people are more important than property. I know, weird, but I guess it's because I'm a humanist. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you have carte blanche to go and burn down a store, but just you got to understand the situation for what it is. As for BLM and Antifa that are killing people, nobody's killed more people in recent years than police and white nationalists. That's a fact. How many people has BLM killed? Is there an accurate count on that? Where are the murders that you're talking about? He keeps talking about, they're burning down the cities and they're murdering people. Where's that evidence? Where are the people that are being murdered? Where? And by the way, with what? What are they being murdered by? Or with? Interesting. So this is essentially trying to scare some racist white people into getting more guns. That's essentially what it is. And that's their audience. Again, One America News, far right. It is interesting, though. I've never seen socialism for guns before, so at least you got to give them credit for being innovative. Alrighty. Last story for y'all. What do pharmaceutical executives think about the people who take their products? Well, according to some executives, not very highly. They don't think very highly of you at all. In fact, executives at several pharmaceutical companies were actually caught mocking customers who had become addicted to their products, according to newly released emails. The emails were revealed by West Virginia prosecutor Paul Farrell Jr. in a trial against drug makers, AmerisourceBergen, Cardinal Health Incorporated, and McKesson Corporation. Now, in it, these emails, you will find nothing but disdain for regular working people who needed medication, were often prescribed powerful opioids for pain, sometimes, in some cases, unnecessarily, and then, some ended up getting addicted as a result. Again, regular people, working people, sometimes they get into accidents or they have debilitating pain or conditions they develop and need these medications. But to these executives, they're what they call, quote unquote, pillbillies. Get it? Hillbilly, because the Appalachia, and then with the pills. See how clever we are? Here's the context, by the way. Watch out, Georgia and Alabama, says one email. There will be a mass exodus of pillbillies heading north, wrote AmerisourceBergen executive Chris Zimmerman after Florida passed legislation in 2011 cracking down on pharmacies. Other executives made up songs about Appalachian addicts to the tune of Beverly Hillbillies and Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, while a corporate investigator forwarded an email titled OxyContin for Kids, showing a cereal box altered to read Smack. A coworker had replied, "You're just a barrel of laughs today." Yes, real funny. Talk about drug addiction. Now, of course, they're complicit here, because these are the companies that would literally dump, well, maybe not literally, but figuratively dump millions of pills into small towns in Appalachia. Yeah. Let's see. Another email he forwarded contained an Associated Press article regarding increased shipment trucks among distributors. Quote, there's a whole lot of pain in the Appalachian area. Well, yes, and you're kind of helping on that one. You're helping to make it worse. Back in 2018, you might remember, drug distributors actually shipped about 20.8 million painkillers to a West Virginia town with a total population of 3,000. Why would a town of 3,000 need 20.8 million pills? The House Committee on Energy and Commerce had sent letters to two drug distributors asking why they sent so many pills and whether the spiking orders for the drugs raised any red flags. Of course, they didn't, because they were making money. They didn't ask any questions. The letter to Springfield, Illinois-based H.D. Smith says West Virginia court documents suggest the company sent the two pharmacies a whopping 39,000 hydrocodone pills in a 2-day period in 2007. A pharmacy in the nearby town of Kermit was similarly inundated with pills from a company, Miami Lucan, based in Springboro, Ohio. 2008, Miami Lucan alone provided 5,624 pills for every man, woman, and child in Kermit, according to the committee's letter. The committee also notes that a doctor in another state with offices 2 hours away was responsible for prescribing about 39% of all oxycodone pills at the pharmacy in tiny Oceania, West Virginia. The pharmacy was provided about 4.3 million painkillers by Miami Lucan from 2008 to 2015. So the CDC, by the way, as a result of all of this, reported that 884 people died drug overdoses in West Virginia in the year of 2016, the highest rate in the country, which, by the way, West Virginia, Appalachia, is being hit incredibly hard by the opioid epidemic. Now, the center identifies opioids, both prescription and illicit, as the main driver of drug overdose deaths. So sometimes people just who need the pain medication get overprescribed. Stronger doses, too strong of a dose. And people sometimes will get that prescription for a while, end up becoming addicted to it, and then not have access to it anymore and turn to illicit. Obviously, people who sell the drugs in the black market sometimes cut them with other things, and there you go. You have deaths and addiction that way. Now, Zimmerman apologized in court for sending emails, but insisted the term pillbillies was actually in reference to the drug dealers, not the patients. Quote, I shouldn't have sent the emails. Oh, you're sorry about it. I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have sent the emails. Why? Because you got caught? Is that why? And by the way, wouldn't that make you the pillbilly? You're the drug dealer. These companies flooded the area with pills. Flooded. In fact, Amerisource Bergen, Cardinal Health, and McKesson actually sent about 127.9 million opioid doses to Cabal County between 2006 and 2014, despite the area having a population of about 90,000 people. That's a lot of pills. Now, I'm no expert, but do you need that many pills in that area? I understand that there are people with chronic pain conditions that they absolutely need these pills to function and live normal lives. But it seems like a lot to me. I don't know. Again, I'm wondering how many of these people ended up in the hands of people suffering from diseases of despair, like, for example, poverty, or were overprescribed to them by doctors who had wanted kickbacks. I wonder about that, but I wonder if they wondered about that, or if they even cared. For me, it makes me think that they didn't care because they were making money. They were making a buck. And that's why it's a good lesson in why stuff like this, healthcare, drugs, pharmaceutical stuff, maybe shouldn't be in the hands of a for-profit industry that prioritizes shareholder profits above everything else. Because then you get situations like this. I mean, but then, for them, who cares? A bunch of debt-addicted, possibly jailed people don't really matter to them. Because it's all about greed. Always has been. Yeah, the addictors making fun of the addicted. Absolutely. That's absolutely what's happening. Definitely. All right. Looks as though that's all I've got for you today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. That helps us out greatly. So now I would like to direct you all to Vosh.gg. It's doing a fundraiser right now for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. So it's an above board charity. It's got incredibly high ratings for a charity. Help some Palestinian kids. Donate to that stream. I'm going to be on there later on at some point tonight. So be having a conversation with Mr. Vosh and all that. And so that should be a lot of fun. So join us for that. Twitch, I'll be raiding into Vosh as well. And people on YouTube, go to Vosh's channel or Vosh.gg. So, all right, everybody. Thank you all. Love you all. Oh, hey, Road Jedi, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that incredibly kind, amazing donation. Live long and prosper. May the force be with you. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. You all, I love you all. Thank you so much. Let's go help some Palestinian kids. And raid. And watch some Mario. Some old school, kick it with some old school Mario 64. Love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow and later tonight.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Wet ass Ford.
Mike Patterns.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.